Hello all, welcome back to the Hand Spinner Review Spot YouTube channel. Please click on the link in the description below to go over to our Facebook page, and if you like what we're doing here and you want to keep up with the new reviews and everything else that we've got coming on the channel, believe me, there's lots of it, and please take a moment to hit the subscription. It makes all the difference to us and really helps us do what we're doing. So, what we're looking at today? Well, this is an interesting, and I think this falls into kind of the classics group of the kind of reviews we've done, along with the Vorso flat top and the stubby and the upcoming torque bar review and all that kind of thing. This is the bow tie by United Machining. Now, these guys have been around since the beginning, really, of hand spinners starting to come out and be more widely available. And this design was really their debut into the market, and I think what they're best known for. So before we get any further into it, let's have a look at this alongside some others so you have a size comparison. There we have a compass from Zerofude. We'll pop a stubby in there. Rotor blade, we'll put a tri-stubby in because, well, why not? We'll put a torque bar, which I've just mentioned, and then of course the flat top in there as well. And because I absolutely love this thing, the tri-cocoon from Pos Blades. I think that gives you quite a good idea. As you can see, when you take it against something, you know, kind of ubiquitous like the stubby, you put it next to that, and then we'll put it next to the torque bar as well. You can see it has a very, very similar length to the torque bar, but when you turn on its side, it has a little more thickness. It's about the same thickness probably as the actual weights on a torque bar, but it's just a very pleasing size overall, quite a crowd pleaser in that regard. But then we get on to the actual design itself. Now this one is a recent one. When these were first released, they came out in aluminium. And the aluminium ones were kind of black DLC style coated, very robust and resilient, very fast spinners, not massively long as you would expect from a light spinner. If you have a look here, I'll show you an aluminium one. This happens to be a blue satin one. This was one of 25 in a short run that they did quite a long time ago now. And it's beautiful, and it's stayed in my collection, which probably gives you an idea of where this review's going to a certain degree. I've always really liked it, and the design is an interesting thing, and let's get on to that. You can actually see it better probably in this one here. As you can see, it's a bow tie style, as you suggest from the name, with these kind of nubs that stick out of the sides. This quite large, slightly dished button, if I bring it close to the camera. This one's in a blue satin aluminium button, and then this is their stainless steel version. Now this stainless steel version weighs, what does it weigh? Weighs 59 grams, looking over at my notes there, and it's just really nicely done. But one of the things that's most integral to this overall design is this fantastic milling pattern. Now you can see it's been there. Let's try and get that in the light and try and get it to focus. You gonna focus for me? No, it's not gonna focus for me. Just trust me, it's on that one as well. But this one shows it off so much better. It's just a beautiful, intricate pattern. Now some people really don't like the overall look of the bow tie from United Machining, and to be honest, when I first saw it, I wasn't initially sold on the overall profile either. But you have to take my word for the fact that when they actually get into your hands, there's something about them which is just hard to photograph, hard to show off, and once you're actually holding one, they are really lovely. Everything on them is very smoothly done. You have this little rounded chamfer, it's not really a chamfer, but a rounded edge to the whole piece, which stops there from being any hot spots on it. As I say, you have this fantastic textured patterning on here. It's actually much more prominent to feel on this new stainless steel one than it was on this. So in some ways, this is slightly more tactile. And indeed, when I took this out, I was out having a drink with a friend last night who has a passing interest in all things spinner. And he handled this one, and he was absolutely thrilled with it. In fact, he said it's probably the favourite of anything he's held from my collection. And I was quite surprised, but at the same time, I don't blame him. And what he was mentioning was that it's got a really nice feel about it. It's quite tactile. Even before you spin it, you get a really nice sensation off of it. So let's talk about the spin, because we're already 4 minutes in and I'm rambling. So yeah, the spin itself. This version here, which is the version that we're actually reviewing today, although you can take certain elements and pass it back to the aluminium one if you want to, it's really smooth, really, really, really smooth in fact, and on a single finger, it's dead smooth. And that's in no small part down to the level of quality machining involved here. This is really, really precise work. But also this guy. This is quite an unusual bearing, and I noticed that when we looked at this, the bearing's actually changed since this one, but even then, it wasn't your conventional R188 or anything like that. Dylan at United Machining has decided to go a slightly different route. Now, this is an R3 hybrid ceramic, and it's just an unusual bearing, and it's a little bit smaller than the one in here, and I believe that's just down to sourcing. And it seems to do the job very well indeed. It sits nicely within there, it's perfectly machined, lovely and flush, and then the buttons, as I say, these are aluminium, and then they're anodized in this lovely bright blue. You can also get them in red and black, and you can see there he always has this lovely laser, I presume it's laser engraving on the inside. You can see this 1 of 499. All of these say 1 of 499. They're not individually numbered on this particular run. And yeah, there you go. Now, in terms of its spin performance, as I was saying, it's extremely smooth. It feels great. It's not too loud, which is quite nice. It's certainly a lot quieter than the previous one in aluminium that I had. And there we go. Look how dead smooth that button is. It's just fantastic. Now, this is 59 grams with the button and the bearing, which is a relatively solid weight. It's quite a standard weight for this sort of material in a bar spinner design, and it works really, really well. And then let's talk about the ergonomics. Like I said when I was talking about the design and the layout, everything's quite smooth and quite easy to handle, and then when you have this sort of grippy surface here, it enables you to get good purchase on it for a reverse flick. It forward flicks really well, and I never find that there's anything particularly uncomfortable about this. The only thing I would say is that I used to love on this one the fact that I could kind of get into this groove here and load a spin. And you can't really do that as comfortably with this one. It just feels a little bit more cumbersome because you're trying to shift more weight in a small space. But generally, it's great. Let's talk about downsides, because so far really it's all been pretty much an upswing if you like the overall design and look of it. That, I think, is your downside, and that's the case with any spinner that you pick up, really. Do you or don't you like the overall aesthetic of the piece? Because as a functional spinner, this is just high quality. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing really negative to say about anything that's been done here. If you don't like the overall profile, or you don't like the milling pattern, or you don't like this lovely spiral engraved button, then yeah, sure, it's not going to be for you. But the same could be said for anything, you know, whether we're talking about, you know, the compass here or any of the others. Really, it's only aesthetics. If you don't like the aesthetics, fine. I have one other small gripe, which it might just be me, to be absolutely honest, but I've always found it with this version, and I found it the same with this. There's something about the way the whole body dips in towards the bearing, which I have to say is beautiful, and maybe it's the grooves as well, and the fact that there's actually a convex curve on the underside of the button that seems to funnel a bit more lint and dirt into the bearing of this design than some others I've used before. This is a minor nitpick for sure, but it's definitely something which I've always noticed with the bow tie, and so I always end up cleaning the bow tie, or at least blasting it out with some compressed air, a little more than some of the other designs, a little less than others as well, to be honest with you, so I don't think it's the major culprit for this, but it certainly is the case. One last other thing I have to say is that in this sort of almost polished machine finish of the stainless steel, this thing looks beautiful to spin. I'm sure the camera will not pick it up as it should do, or else I would wish it would, but it's just lovely. So if you want a beautifully made over 5-minute spinner that's I think it's very cost effective, I'll put a link to his website in the description below to make it easy for you. I would still recommend the bow tie. Even now it stands as a solid representative of the bar spinner style in the current spinner market. So there we have it, the bow tie from United Machining. Thanks very much, guys. Catch you in the next video. Bye bye.